Well, adding to the evidence revealed in Durham's filing, old tweets from the Clinton campaign resurfaced this weekend. In one from 2016, Hillary Clinton outlined how Trump was connected to Russia, adding that her campaign's senior policy advisor, Jake Sullivan, who is now President Biden's national security advisor, knew more. Here's what Sullivan had to say at the time. Quote, "This could be the most direct link yet between Donald Trump and Moscow. Computer scientists have uncovered a covert server linking the Trump organization to a Russian-based bank. This secret hotline may be the key to unlocking the mystery of Trump's ties to Russia." Joining us with his take, Washington Examiner chief political correspondent and Fox News contributor Byron York. It is fascinating in hindsight now to read those tweets. Hillary Clinton was desperate to prove that Donald Trump was somehow tied to Russia. And according to this John Durham filing, it was the Clinton campaign that was actually spying on Trump and ultimately on the President of the United States.
That's right. This was the last weeks of the 2016 campaign. The Clinton campaign was getting a little desperate at that point, but they had been trying for months to try to link the Trump campaign and Donald Trump himself and Russia. It began first with news around the DNC hack around the time of the Democratic convention, and then it kept going. And in this case, Jake Sullivan, who was then her top advisor, was trying to sell the idea. It was called the Alpha Bank scandal, with the Alpha Bank being a Russian bank, and they alleged that there were a lot of computer connections between Alpha Bank and the Trump organization. Wasn't true, didn't come to anything, but the idea, here's what the idea was. The idea was to sell it to the FBI. And then they could tell reporters that the FBI was investigating something. It's not just us and the Clinton campaign saying this, it's the FBI that's investigating it. That would have given it more credibility with the press, and that was what the Clinton campaign was trying to pull off in the final weeks of the campaign.
There was an op-ed today in the Washington Examiner, not written by you, but by Kayla McGee White. She writes this: "The worst part is that our intelligence community took the Clinton campaign's findings, which were either highly misleading or outright false, according to Durham's investigation, and ran with them. The FBI launched an investigation into Trump's campaign, and congressional Democrats started their own investigation for the sole purpose of making Trump out to be a Russian stooge. And nearly 3 years later, few of the people responsible for this hoax have faced any consequences." Hopefully, now that there are signs Durham's investigation is heating up, that changes soon. It is fascinating to read what Durham's filing says, that they contacted a tech executive and a tech company and had them trying to spy on the campaign servers of the Trump campaign. And ultimately, when he won the election and he was in the White House, they were still continuing that. Then President Trump says this was worse than Watergate. Is it?
Well, that last part was really amazing and bad. Yes. First of all, in the final days of the campaign, they were trying again to connect Trump and Russia. What's really striking in this Durham report is after the campaign is over, after Trump wins during the transition and then he becomes president, they're trying to do the same thing with the servers of the executive office of the president. That's absolutely extraordinary. And you remember, in the first months of the Trump administration, the whole Russia allegation with the publication of the dossier was enormously damaging to the president, just incredibly damaging to the president. And now it appears to be the work of, in part, the Clinton campaign, the Democratic Party, various activists involved.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.